Welcome to Real Estate with Real Faces, where homes meet hometown heroes. We're your trio behind the transaction. I'm Claire Springer, a realtor.
I'm Ashley Four, a lender.
And I'm Lindsay Michael, a title rep, bringing you real conversations with real people in our community.
From local business owners to everyday neighbors, we're spotlighting the faces behind the places and the stories behind the sold signs.
So grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and let's talk life, business, and all things real estate with a personal twist.
Welcome back to Real Estate with Real Faces. Today we have a special guest. This is Jessica. She's the Executive Director of the Family Justice Center. Today we're going to talk about the Family Justice Center and what her role is, what also the Family Justice Center has to offer people, and then how you can get in contact if you need said services as well. Or even if you want to help out, how you can. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you first tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, and how did you come into this role?
Yeah. So I am a social worker by trade, but I started out working for the Family Justice Center back in 2015. And I started out as a protective order advocate. So that is simply helping individuals seeking protective orders walk through that process and understand what the steps are and how it takes place. That can include accompanying them to court, answering questions, providing legal information. And then in 2017, I transitioned to the Director of Victim Services here at the center. And my primary role was working with high lethality domestic violence cases. And then in 2024, I transitioned to the role of Executive Director.
Okay. Awesome. And then can you explain to us, for those of us that don't know, what is the Family Justice Center? Like, what do you do here? What does everyone do here?
So the Family Justice Center is a national model that came out of San Diego, California, back in the late 80s, early 90s, with the realization that survivors of domestic, family violence, sexual assault, and stalking had to go to 32 different locations to receive the services that they needed to either leave or stay gone from those situations. So that's crazy. We shouldn't expect people to have to go to that many places. And so the Family Justice Center model was born out of that, with the intention of bringing the necessary entities under one roof. So here, every Family Justice Center looks a little different, and that's for a good cause. We want it to fit the community that it's serving. So our Family Justice Center is one of the first 15 original Family Justice Centers in the nation. St. Joe County received a Family Justice Center initiative grant, and we established our center. In 2013, we moved to our current location at 533 North Niles, and we came on site with our CAC. In-house, we have the social services of the center, our advocacy staff, our protective order attorney, our therapists, Then we also have the Casey Center, which is our child forensic interviewers, and our truancy program, as well as our prevention education program that is in all of our schools. And then we also have our SVU, not fully like the show, SVU, which is both our detectives and our prosecutors. So we have 5 deputy prosecutors and their teams on site, as well as detectives and a commander who investigate all of our sexual offense cases and our child abuse and neglect cases.
Wow. I really didn't know that, about that everybody was housed all in one. And so that's really cool. Yeah. Honestly.
And we're so our Family Justice Center is still currently the only one in the Midwest. But there's other ones, in particular in Southern Indiana, that are working hard to get up and running. But this model is cutting edge, and it's like we always say, seeing is believing, because it's not until you need the services that you often know that they exist.
Yeah. So then that's true because it's like the only one, and it's kind of in the Midwest. How far out do you service?
So we only serve St. Joe County. Yeah.
Interesting.
But we have upwards of 600 new clients every year. We average anywhere from 10 to 15,000 interactions with people.
How long so let's say somebody needs the services.
Mhm.
How is it like you graduate out, or is it just kind of when you feel that you are good, you leave?
Yeah, like is it a program or like services?
So all of our services are voluntary, and individuals can come and receive services at any given point. Our average is when somebody decides that they want to work with the center and work with an advocate or our protective attorney or get into therapy, um, we see about a 6 month engagement, and then if there is a criminal case going on, we often will see after about those first 6 months, we'll see a little bit of a drop off. And then when the criminal case gets to the point of either taking a plea or going to trial, we often see people re-engage for supportive services at that point, because our cases take a really long time to get through the criminal justice process.
And then let's say somebody needs the services, and you guys have hours. What avenue would they go to?
Yeah.
What would they do?
So our services really are available 24/7. We have not only a 24-hour crisis line, but we also respond to both of the local hospitals. So someone from our team is always on call, and able to go with people to the hospital and sit with them and answer questions, develop safety plans, kind of think through the next steps. But we also receive people on a walk-in basis. We are a locked facility, and that is intentional. We want people to know and feel safe walking through our doors, and be able to hopefully trust us and let that guard down a little bit once they've crossed that threshold, because we firmly believe that it's one of the bravest next steps that people take.
Absolutely.
And so either calling our crisis line or calling our front desk. Some people, myself included, I much prefer to communicate via text or email. Are more than welcome to get on our website and email us. Honestly, our main email comes directly to me, so then I filter it out to the appropriate next steps.
Can you share some of the success stories of some of the families or someone that maybe sticks in your mind of after they've come through here?
Yeah, I think you bring up a great topic. While I will happily share some of like the big takeaways that I've had, an important thing to note is that as a family justice center, we as advocates hold state and federal confidentiality. So I can't talk about with names or things or specific cases, but we have had many cases over my time here that we start every staff meeting actually where we talk about mission moments. And those are small wins or huge wins, things where clients are successful at rebuilding and starting. Sometimes it simply is that families were able to get all of their kiddos to school and like out the door and to work on time. So that really is just some of those small wins.
That's huge stuff.
Especially as a parent myself, those are huge.
As a parent and also a former teacher, I mean, I'm familiar with the Casey Center, right? Because, so just to see, even just the kids' side, where I can think of someone in particular, one of my students, when they came to school on time, I remember them running into the classroom to backpack still on, coat still on, to tell me they were there.
Aww.
Like that was how excited they were just to get there on time. And it was, I mean, for a week, they were so excited. So just, something
to celebrate those little bits.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was cute to see how excited they were, because they were younger. It's not something that they can control, right? But
And it's that kind of stuff
but it's
that is, and it's always so interesting to hear from clients, because clients come to us on what is, or most of the time is, the hardest days of their lives.
Sure.
And they can often be really physically and emotionally drained. And so I always love to talk about like the smile. I love seeing clients regain that smile. And once we regain that smile, being able to get to know them as a human has always been something that I've been asked a lot over the years of like, but doesn't that make it harder? And I think in some sense it does, but we want to be able to get to the point where we know what brings that client joy.
Right,
We
yeah.
want to, because joy is something that is intentional that you have to seek out. And being able to share in that for clients is so important, because going through these types of situations can be so very isolating. So sometimes just having your advocate know that you're in school to be a beautician and you're really excited because you're almost done with all of your hours and things like that is a huge thing to have somebody check in on.
Yeah.
So really just kind of being intentional about where we can find that
I
joy.
think that's and joy and just encouragement. Like it's important because a lot of people don't have that either. They don't have encouragement to find their own joy.
Yeah.
And I think that's really beneficial.
Yes.
You
You
know,
have that support system.
yeah.
I know.
Well, and especially in situations like that where like they're not open to sharing how they're feeling in any regards whatsoever, good, bad, or ugly, because there's going to be a consequence.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something, whether it's a backhanded compliment, whether it's a physical, there's always going to be something. So it's so much easier to just keep your mouth shut and not do anything.
Mhm.
But then when you have somebody who is completely non-confrontational, non-judgmental, you are in a locked facility, you feel safe. It's very easy for those people to start openly talking about themselves in ways that they couldn't before.
Having
Yeah.
that support system for
It's huge.
sure is huge.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say, I think that the other piece of that you had mentioned is that so many of our clients, when they are making that first step out of a relationship, they are overwhelmed by decisions because they've been isolated and not had the opportunity to make decisions for
Right.
themselves.
Yep.
And so that in and of itself can be so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And the idea of just simply having somebody giving you two choices, like, do you want coffee or do you want water? And being able to like make a decision in that sense, and then being able to like slowly build upon that relationship. Because one, as a grown adult most days myself, like the just simple decision fatigue that I experience can be so overwhelming, let alone feeling like my whole life is imploding and still being asked to make more decisions.
What are some misconceptions that maybe the Family Justice Center has, or
So for the FJC in particular, I think it's always really important to note that we are not the JJC. That is the Juvenile Justice Center. We often get very, very confused people when they call us and they're expecting to talk to a clerk, and that's not quite it. So we are not the Juvenile Justice Center, but I think overall, something that I myself spend a lot of time kind of working through with our team, with clients, is just that like it is possible to break cycles. And it is possible to heal. It's not always, I have a quote in my office, it's not always easy, but I can promise that it will be worth it. And so being able to take the small wins and really highlight those and encourage people to do some of the tough work and know that it's not going to happen overnight, and nothing in this world often happens overnight, but being able to be intentional around it and building those support systems around people is something that I personally and our team very much values.
and then this may be a dumb question, but it's
No,
family. Family Justice Center. So, do you have to be a family to be coming here, or can you be like a single individual that needs services?
So it generally has to fall into the scope of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. And so if it falls into those three categories, but there's no time frame. You don't have to have made a police report about an incident. You don't have to have engaged in any sort of services outside of that. It just simply has to fall into one of those categories for us to at least provide resources, help understand systems and processes. But we also tailor everything to that specific client. Yes, it sounds really overwhelming, but part of our work and our advocates' experience is that the systems are moving in their kind of like checklist process, whereas we are an open book and we want to hear what they're willing to share and help navigate that in next steps. My personal favorite thing to do is to respond to the hospitals, because I get a very like specific role of like, I just get to be a support. I don't have to think about all of the other things. I get to let our amazing forensic nurses do their thing, and I just simply get to offer that emotional and sometimes even physical support to that individual.
It's your social worker.
It's the social worker in me, and I would say sprinkling of the mom.
Yeah.
But to be able to like make sure that they have a warm blanket and make sure that if they have a question, a lot of the times when we're going through strangulation assessments at the hospital or rape kits, it's the element of people still have choice in those processes. And so sometimes it can be hard to verbalize it, especially when you're scared and coming off of something like that. The adrenaline is still very saturated in your body. So to be able to say like, hey, if you get feeling like you need a second to make a decision on if you want to do this next step in the process, what would feel comfortable? Do you want to like scratch your earlobe? And then I will intentionally interject and like create some space for you to make that decision. Being able to be that support for people really helps them understand that even though they're coming out of a really tough spot, that they still have choice and they have the ability to have a pause and make a next step.
Yeah, that's huge. And then let's say our viewers in the community wants to help. How can we help? What are some ways that we can do?
Shameless plug, we are always looking for donations of any sort. We're in a very interesting environment with funding, and we have been drastically affected by the federal funding shifts. But also, we have 2 signature events each year. We have my personal favorite, which is Bacon. It's called Bacon Around the Bend. It's a 5K.
I've heard of that.
It is a absolute blast. And that's the key. Talking about domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking is really heavy. As an individual on the autism spectrum, it's my special interest, and so I will talk for eternity about it. That element of knowing that some people don't want to go there, but they do want to support.
It's up to
100%. We have so many people that participate in the race that on the back end or beforehand will reach out to us and say, like, I'm a survivor and I just want to be of support. I'm not ready to like get into the weeds of all of it, but I just want to exist for like in solidarity with others around this topic. Well, Bacon is a 5K that starts at the center and it goes up into the Hill neighborhood and it loops back, and there's a bacon pit stop along the route. So there's literal cooked bacon in bacon, little cups for people. We call it our bacon shots. Then the 5K ends at Corby's, and there's an after party with Bloody Marys and pizza.
more bacon.
More bacon. Yes,
Absolutely.
there's lots more bacon. So it's a really fun event. And then we host a purse auction in late September, early October each year, highlighting the intentionality of so many of our survivors, both male and female, will experience domestic violence, and they leave with only the bag that they brought in, sometimes not even that. So using that as a very intentional symbol to portray to our community, but also raise money to keep the services going.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we always end our episode with a confession, and it can be a group confession, it can be a confession, fun confession, it can be literally anything. Do you have a confession you would want to share?
When I was pregnant with my first daughter, I would spend my lunch breaks sleeping on the floor in my office. I was so tired.
Yeah.
I was like in bed at 8 o'clock, and that is not me.
I was just telling my husband the other night, with our first, he works 10-hour shifts, and so I would get home in the afternoon. I would let the dogs out. The dogs would come back with me to bed, and we would nap until my husband got home like 4 hours later, and then I would still go to bed at like 9 o'clock. I was so tired. I was
the one that had like
Of peanut butter in my drawer with crackers because I'd be in class teaching, and then I'd be like, no. And then I'd have to get a spoon and spoon my peanut butter so I wouldn't get sick.
Oh my God.
I love teaching.
See, I never, with both of my kids, I never got like sick. I know,
Yeah,
right?
it was nice. No,
With
Terrible.
Charles, it was so bad. Like they contemplated doing like the whole feeding regimen for me. I lost 35 pounds.
Wow. My third, I was always
Still to
sick.
this day, like there will be certain mornings where I'll wake up. I'm like, okay, no, and it feels like morning sickness. And I'll go to the bathroom and I'll dry leave and I'll be fine.
See, that
It's the worst.
I was so sure that my daughter was another boy because everything was the same.
Same.
It was all the same. Surprise! Like when we found out, I'm like, "Are you like are you sure?" 'Cause I don't know about that.
I was-
and until she was born, I was
With my daughter. Because my husband it's all boys. It's all boys. His dad was all boys. His grandfather, all boys. He and his brother are boys. And so I literally, when I was pregnant with my daughter, everybody was like, oh, it's, it's another boy. I said, no, I know for a fact it's a girl. I know for a fact. Turned out it's a girl. I was like,
told you, I knew it.
well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And if you would like to help out or if you would like to join in on the run, we'll put the information for you. We'll put the link up and join, donate, and be a part of it. All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.